Hello guys, I am Fizzy and welcome back to another league race. This is round 3 of the AOR PC Split 1 League and it's a Chinese Grand Prix, and well, here we are in qualifying and I've got a bit of a confession to make, I suppose. So basically, at the start of the qualifying session I wasn't as aware as I should have been of my surroundings, because my plan going into this qualifying session was to chill out for a bit and then go out for a one and only run on the soft compound tire for strategy purposes in the race. Because as you can see, it's raining! Are we going straight on at the hairpin? So this was after maybe about 5 minutes in the qualifying session, and I hadn't quite checked the weather forecast, and apparently it started to rain after just a few minutes, which means that since I didn't go out of the pit straight away, I couldn't get a dry lap time in. So as you can see here, 10 drivers managed to get a lap in on the dry compound tires. Very much off the normal dry pace, of course, because of the weather, but I did manage to get a time on the board. So basically what I and the 5 other guys who hadn't got a lap time in had to do was to go back out again on the inters and basically had to have a shootout by ourselves for 11th place in the session. So that's, you know, that's kind of thrown a good qualifying out the window straight away, but all we can do at this point is to just go out there, try to make the best of it, which in this case would be qualifying 11th and beating all the other intermediate runners. As you can see, going into this particular lap, struggling a lot with the traction out of turn, well, I call it turn 2, but it's actually turn 3 and 4, and then now going into turn 6 here, missing the apex a little bit, just overestimating how late I could brake in these conditions there, because I've not done too much wet running on this game yet, to be honest. And well, as tends to happen, I had done 0 wet laps as preparation for this particular race. But yeah, currently P12 provisionally on the grid. Nick B holding that 11th place at the minute, which is the man we'll have to try and beat. I think he's about 5 or 6 tenths ahead of the lap I have got on the board at the moment. So if I can improve by about 6 or 10 or more, then I should hopefully jump him. And it's been a pretty decent lap so far, but then we get to turn 13 and it's so hard to get in the throttle, but we managed to limit the wheel spin quite a bit, even though I probably, with a slightly better line, could have gotten on the throttle a little bit earlier. Either way though, no DRS of course in the wet down at the straights, and now we wait for the braking zone, and here we go, braking at 150 meter board, which is earlier than in normal conditions of course, where I'd brake closer to the 100 board. But getting on the power pretty nicely, having even a bit of oversteer in 5th gear there, and then hitting the apex for the final corner, staying off the curb on the outside. And then what was a lap time? Improving by almost 7 tenths of a second, 148.798, which did put me ahead of Nick B and ahead of all the other intermediate runners. So even though I'd hoped before the session to qualify above 11th, it actually felt like a good session, just purely because of the satisfaction of kind of winning the intermediate shootout, I guess, and qualify in 11th place, which, to be fair though, I run the track like this, which is notorious for very, very high tire wear. 11th place isn't really the worst place it can be when all the other guys ahead of you will have to start then on worn tires, because they of course did their laps on either super softs or softs. So I'm the first, well the top qualifier that gets to start with fresh or unworn tires, I guess you can say. And I've actually opted to start on the medium tire, the hardest compound, the slowest compound, but the most durable compound. And I was one of the very, very few to do so, maybe 1 or 2 others that did the same. And the plan being, of course, that I expect to be in a lot of traffic on the first stint, so if you can stay with the pack and keep the tires in nice shape, then we could gain on it towards the end of the stint and further on in the race. As the lights are now out, as you can see, lots of smoke in the middle of the field, and we have gotten away pretty nicely considering our tires at the moment. We can see our teammate a little bit on the grass up there in the front. I think he's lagging just a little bit as we've gone a very long way around the outside of turn 1 and 2. Lots of scrapping up ahead of us. Mini Black pretty much off the circuit there, dropping behind, and Sebi next to us. He managed to get back around. I went around the outside of him through turn 1 and 2, then he went back around through 3 and 4, and then very cautious into turn 6. Don't want to get myself too involved in this early stage, just want to stay out of trouble, as we tend to do. Keep with the pack, wait until people spread out a tiny bit more, and then we can start maybe challenging for some positions. You can see Renault Tiger actually. Yeah, I didn't really point this out, but of course, because of the weirdness with the weather in qualifying, the field up front we got very mixed up. You can see Renault Tiger in an unusual position there in 7th, just ahead of Sebi, battling in the midfield at the early part of this race. Because in qualifying, it was basically a kind of a first come, first served in terms of good positions. Berg von Trips, who took pole, was probably the first one to set a lap time in the session, which would have been when it was the driest out on track. So, yeah, very interesting grid for this race, even in the top 10. But now behind us, we can see we didn't get a very good run onto this straight, and that means that Nick B is going to be all over us and up the inside into the braking zone for the hairpin. Not sure how we're going to defend from this, to be honest. Trying to brake pretty late because we're going to have to leave room on the inside. And there was a bit of contact there as well, but didn't really affect our car. And then I looked back and I couldn't see Nick B anywhere, which really confused me. You could see me looking to the side there as well, because I maybe expected him to be there, but he was just nowhere. But it turns out that there was actually 2 cars on my inside, which I didn't realize when I turned into the hairpin, which is why I kind of just left room for 1 car. But luckily Nick B pulled out of it in terms of pulling out of the move, which lost him a bit of time, but at least there was no big harm done. Although I think the car that did touch me, which I can't quite remember who was, yeah, he might have had some problems. But either way, it's all well and good now. Onto the 2nd lap of this Chinese Grand Prix, and closing in on Cool Cat in the Sauber just ahead, with a Mini Black in the Force India just behind. And you can just tell already that this race is going to be very interesting in terms of strategy. The car ahead is on super soft, so we're on mediums, and the guy behind is on soft, so it's all very different strategies. And you can see now we were pretty much under pressure from Mini Black, but we pulled away from him onto the back straight, then trying to brake around the outside. Pretty optimistic there, Cool Cat, because we were quite far back on in the braking zone. Either way, we managed to close in right up to the back of him. So we've now got the final corner to go, and then into lap 3 we go, as my teammate sets the fastest lap of the race on lap 2. And DRS is enabled, of course, as always, going into lap 3. So next time we get around to the backstretch, if we have a car ahead of us, they shall be blasted past, hopefully, unless they have DRS again as well. Yeah. As Cool Cat now has touched around Tigger slightly, going through that corner. He's been forced to the outside end of turn 3 and 4, but with those super soft tires, even though they're going to be wearing much more than my mediums at this point, they managed to get a pretty decent traction out of there. Marco FD now in the other Ferrari, just behind as we try to go around the outside, and Cool Cat there, but he just had too much grip on the inside and the shorter way around, of course. And now we're going to be side by side into turn 7, I think, as we have touch wheels. Oh my goodness me! Several anus holes just flew off my buttocks. I have no idea how I am still alive after that one. Literally was 97.6% sure that I was going to spin around, do full 180 there after that touch. Because that's what usually happens when you touch a car like that. I think I got a little bit squeezed towards the apex there, to be honest. Cool Cat did apologize to me for that afterwards. But wow, that could have been a lot worse. But luckily we find only dropped 2 positions. Cool Cat though there, involved in another little incident there, has lost out on that one, so he's now dropped behind us instead. And currently we are still sitting in P11 then after all that drama, which is the position we started in, of course. And now Mini Black is ahead of us instead of behind us, so it's our turn to pressure him a little bit and see if our mediums have anything to challenge his soft tires. Going onto the back straight, trying to keep close through turn 13 areas, of course, absolutely vital if you want to have to try and get a move done. Turning the fuel mix up to rich as well for the straight, just to get the ultimate power, and then DRS, of course, as well. I'm pretty sure he also will have DRS, but I just had a slipstream and the better exit off the previous corner of the inside into the hairpin. He's trying to brake late. He's going to be side by side around here. I dropped into the first gear just because I was actually quite scared of turning into him there, understeering off the circuit. That allowed him to get back ahead of me into the final corner. Unfortunately, we could see a couple of cars in the pits now. It's all very much kicking up off at the start of lap number 5. Now there's a yellow flag as well. Going into turn 7 as a car off track is a Mercedes. It's Berg von Trips, who was the man who qualified on pole position, and he's carried lots of speed off the runoff there and towards turn 7. So he's going to be on our outside here. A little bit scared. Don't nearly touch with him as well. Just a little bit scared there, because considering fresh in mind what happened with Cool Cat just a couple of laps earlier. Just about managed to avoid any contact with Berg then, luckily. So we're in P9 at the moment, which is of course because of the guys that were in the pits, as Berg had a tiny bit of a lag moment there, which forced me kind of to go away from the racing line just in case. A little bit scary that as well. It's all very scary. It's well, I guess appropriate. It's a Halloween month, but still, when you're racing at these speeds in these cars, you don't want scary moments to really happen to you. You can see both of us with DRS open, but again, we have the better straight line speed with the slipstream behind. And again, we're going to be on the inside into the hairpin, but again, the car on the outside is going to brake later, and Berg doing an even better job than a minute black there, and we were forced to just leave the room on the exit again, which got us a really poor exit out of the corner. Either way, that's another car into the pit, so we're going to go up to P8 at least for now. That was Tigger, in fact, going in there. So it's all really hectic now in the first stint, but of course on our medium tires we're going to have a long way to go still before our first pit stop, as Berg and Mini Black are now side by side through turn 2 into turn 3 and have touched Berg. Looked like he kind of turned into Mini Black a little bit. Maybe he wasn't as far alongside on his screen, I don't know. Either way, Berg has spun around completely, which has given us a free position. We'll gladly take that. Mini Black though, under pressure again and again. We're gonna have the DRS now on the inside. We are further along though at this part of the straight than we were before, and he's actually behind us even before we reach the braking zone. Still gonna keep the defensive line just in case, so that he can't dive back up the inside. And this time we managed to get the move done on a Mini Black at the end of lap number 6, and another car into the pits, 2 other cars even into the pits. So we're gonna be in 4th in a second here, which is all thanks to our strategy, but of course we're going to have to pit quite soon, as Mini Black is now coming back at us with a much better exit out of the last corner. But as a result of that, he's gone wide through turn 1 and into turn 2. So it's going to be side by side, very tight. Going to make sure to leave room out on the exit. And into turn 3. Who can get better on the traction there? Such a tricky zone to get on the power. But we've both done it pretty well. So we're going to be side by side again. This time me on the inside. Can we carry enough speed? And we kind of touching the curb a little bit. Oh, and there's a bit of contact in the exit as well, throwing my hand in the air. But Mini Black is not giving up on this position, so we're going to carry the speed around the outside in turn number 7. And wow, we've managed to get ahead just about round the outside, just being a bit brave with the speed through the corner. Mini Black has, oh, well, I don't know what he has. He's at least behind me, that's all that matters. That's a great battle with Mini Black, to be honest. Probably lost a bit of time to the cars ahead, but even so, this is what League Racing is all about, battling hard for position when you can. And on this particular battle, we have won out just about, but Mini Black, of course, is going to be right behind us onto the back straight, and we have not managed to pull enough of a gap, which means that he's going to be very much a threat with the DRS closing very fast from behind us against speed. We're trying to throw sparks in his face, but he's not putting him off whatsoever, so he's going to go on the inside then. Kind of trying to cut back here as my teammate is in the pits, as you can see. Mini Black getting back ahead of us, but then pits. So that was the end of that battle for now, and lots of cars in the pits, which means that we're going to be up to 2nd place in the race. Man, and then at end lap 8 into lap 9, we're going to be taking the lead of the race as well, because none runner has pitted from the lead on his soft tires. So this is of course what I was expecting with the strategy I chose, starting the race on the medium compound tires. Everyone else would have to pit earlier than me, so we get to at least enjoy the lead of the race for a couple of laps. But now on the end of lap 11, I was in a bit of a dilemma here, because my tires actually at this point was only about 50-something% worn, which means it was tiny bit tempting actually to consider the one-stop potential strategy. But as you can see in the pits, we decided to go for the 2-stop, just because based on all the practice I had done here beforehand, there was literally no chance. It has to be said that the tyre wear I've had so far in this race is way better than what I had in my races in practice. But still, I didn't think it would really be possible, at least not at a good enough pace, to make it work. So we come out of the pits again, and in P6 actually, which is higher than I expected to be, because as you remember, before everyone started pitting on lap 4 or something, we were actually in 11th place. We have had a lot of stuff happen to us since then, of course. But I did expect to come out way further down than 6th place after my first stop. So I'll gladly take that, and Nuka in 5th, just ahead as you can see. And yeah, I'm pretty sure part of the reason I'm all the way up in 6th is because there was a pretty big accident further down the field involving believe Marco, Sebi, Raven and O'Darn. Probably all of them involved and losing time as a result of some kind of accident that happened. Shame for them, of course, but that's not something I'm going to complain about when I am trying to get as many positions as I can in the race. So what we need to focus on is trying to get past Nuka, who of course will have been also on a different strategy. I'm pretty sure he started on super softs and therefore will have pitted quite a few laps ago. Not quite sure how long ago. Either way, my tires will be in a much better state, so we have done a good run onto the back straight again. DRS open, should be no problems here. We can just look back and see when we have passed him fully. Moving back onto the racing line, braking nicely with a bit of a lock up, and there we go. Job done on Nuka for 5th place in the race, and now Raven ahead has gone in the pits, which means we're going to be up to 4th place in the race, which is very interesting. Because of course we only have one stop to go in the race. Surely if Raven pitted on that lap, he's going to also have to stop again, so we will be ahead of him properly in the race. Nuka did keep pretty close to us towards the end of the next lap as well, but in the acceleration zone through turn 13 we managed to keep him at a reasonable distance, so we could get nowhere near us on the straight. And then nothing happened. Similar story to Bahrain in a way. That once I kind of settled into my strategy, settled into my position, there was nothing going on because I was just by myself on the track doing laps. But on the end of lap 20, going into the lap, God, I've been doing too much talking in this race, to be honest. Into the pits for our second stop. Of course, we're gonna have to go on the soft tires because we have to run the two of the 3 different compounds in the race. We had already run the mediums so far. And there we go, out on the track again, still in P4. So Nuka now is absolutely nowhere. You can see him there on the map with the car. I think it's Nick B. It definitely is Nick B, because he's now the man in 5th as we are at the end of the race already, because nothing more happened. So yeah, I mean, there was literally no point in me just showing me just doing laps. Nothing of note happened. I did have no problems with my tires, to be honest. The tire wear is way better than I expected in the race. 48% on the front left. You can see it's the worst, most critical tire at the end of the race with the softs. But there we go. The race is over and we finished P4. We've gone from P6 in Australia to P5 in Bahrain to P4 in China. The streak of finishing P1 in Monaco is alive. Because of course if we continue to improve by 1 every race, then that is what will happen. Although I think Russia next, finishing P3 there is going to be a bit of a miracle. Either way, it's been a very, very interesting race. A new winner as well. Tiger could not work his way back up to win the race in the end. He was very close, only 2 seconds behind, and finished 2nd despite starting in 7th. But Non-Runner with his debut win of the season, which is going to move him all the way up to 2nd place from 9th or something, or even 10th or something in the championship as he was before. We're going to be chilling out in 5th position, equal on points now with our teammate who jumped ahead, but we managed to get ahead of Berg, who didn't have the best of races. And we are only 3 points behind Marco and Non-Runner, so we're only 3 points off 2nd place in the championship, I think. Now, going into the 2-week break, 5th place with 30 points in this field of drivers is not a bad place to be. And constructors even better, myself and Race Fanatic, but with 30 points, which means of course we have 60 in total for Renault. Ferrari still way out in front with Tigger and Marco, but 2nd place looking well and good at the moment. 20 points ahead of Mercedes and 25 ahead of Red Bull, as you can see. So, as I mentioned, we have now a 2-week break in the leagues. That is because the normal race schedule would otherwise clash with the real-life races in USA and Mexico if we were to hold the races on those Sundays, which is unfortunate, but that means you're gonna have to wait 3 weeks until the next race video from me, which will be at the Russian Grand Prix, which is a circuit that I absolutely hate. It's probably my least favorite on the whole calendar, but you know, we have a streak to keep going here. Apparently I'm meant to finish P3 in that one, so you know, guess I have to practice as per usual for that. But yeah, before that we have a bit of a wait, so in 3 weeks I hope you'll join me again for another league race. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the Chinese Grand Prix. So until next time, I've been Fizzy, and goodbye.